"Who gave you that bruise?" Dominic Kane asked the question so quietly that every man in the room stopped breathing. Claire Bennett had spent 2 years surviving Grayhaven Estate by becoming invisible. She cleaned blood from marble floors, avoided powerful men, and buried her fear beneath a black maid's uniform. But that night, beneath the light of Dominic's desk lamp, one purple mark exposed everything she had tried to hide. What happened next was not a rescue. It was the beginning of a dangerous bargain between safety and freedom, loyalty and possession, a woman desperate to protect her brother and a Mafia boss willing to burn Boston for her. Stay until the end, because this story reveals what happens when protection becomes a cage and fear begins to feel like love. Like the video and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. 48 hours before Dominic Kane asked who had bruised her, Claire Bennett woke to the sound of a dying radiator knocking inside the wall. It was 5:12 in the morning. The basement room was still dark except for the pale blue light leaking through a narrow window near the ceiling. Rainwater moved across the glass in thin silver veins. Somewhere above her, Grayhaven Estate was sleeping beneath 40 acres of stone iron and carefully guarded silence. Claire sat up on the narrow bed and pressed both feet to the cold concrete floor. The radiator knocked again. 3 sharp taps, a pause, then 2 more. She had once imagined it was trying to speak to her. After 2 years in the basement, she knew better. Nothing in Grayhaven spoke unless it expected to be obeyed. Her black uniform hung from a nail beside the dresser. The white collar had begun to fray. One cuff carried a faint gray stain that no amount of bleach could remove. Mrs. Mercer had noticed it twice and said nothing, which was the closest the head housekeeper ever came to mercy. Claire reached beneath the mattress and pulled out a small metal cash box. Inside were 6 folded pay envelopes, a photograph of Claire and Owen as children, and a collection notice bearing a balance of $82,000. Their father had left the debt behind when he died. Every Friday, Claire paid what she could to Leonard Price, a collector for the Calder crew. Every Friday, the interest swallowed most of the payment. 1 month earlier, Price had visited the garage while Owen was closing. He had not spoken to him. He had only leaned against a black sedan across the street and watched. Claire understood the message. The debt did not belong to a dead man anymore. It belonged to the 2 children he had left behind. Grayhaven paid 3 times what a hotel would pay a housemaid. The money came in cash, sealed inside thick envelopes with no deductions and no questions. Claire had accepted the job because desperation made dangerous places look practical. She remained because every locked gate between Owen and the Calders bought him another ordinary day. Her phone vibrated. Owen had sent a message. "Dinner Sunday? I'll cook this time. Promise." Claire stared at the screen. Her 19-year-old brother lived above an auto repair shop in South Boston. He believed their father's debt had been settled, and that Claire worked for a wealthy family because the pay was good. Those lies had kept him alive. Working late again. "Next week," she typed. His answer came quickly. "You always say next week." Claire closed her eyes, then wrote the promise he wanted. "I mean it this time." No answer came. She hid the notice beneath the mattress. By 5:30, she was dressed. By 5:40, she was walking through the service corridor with her hair tied back and her expression empty. That expression had taken 2 years to perfect. The basement smelled of bleach-wet stone and old pipes. Steam drifted from the laundry room. A cook pushed a cart of onions toward the kitchen. 2 guards passed in the opposite direction, speaking quietly about a shipment delayed at the harbor. Claire lowered her eyes before they reached her. At Grayhaven, the staff did not stare. They did not listen. They did not remember. The rules were never written down, but everyone learned them quickly. Never enter the East Wing unless ordered. Never touch a closed briefcase. Never repeat a name heard through a door. Never ask why blood had been left on the marble. Claire had broken none of those rules. That was why she was still there. The service stairs opened into the main kitchen where heat and noise collided beneath rows of copper pans. Mrs. Lydia Mercer stood near the pantry with a clipboard against her chest. Her silver hair was pulled into a severe knot. Mr. Kane returned from Boston after midnight. The East Wing is restricted. No one enters his study without my order. No personal conversations in the upper hall. If a door is closed, it stays closed. A new maid named Tessa raised her hand. What happens if someone makes a mistake? The kitchen went still. Mrs. Mercer did not look at her. They do not make it twice. Everyone returned to work. Emily Foster leaned toward Claire beside the linen cart. "You make it sound like we work for a king." Claire lifted a stack of napkins. Kings want to be loved. The main floor of Grayhaven belonged to another world. Morning light spread across imported marble. Paintings watched from dark walls while the Atlantic broke against the cliffs beyond the windows. The house was beautiful in the way a knife could be beautiful. Claire knew which boards creaked, which doors echoed, and where the cameras failed to see. Knowledge kept her useful. Silence kept her safe. A week after she started, Claire had found 3 drops of blood near the formal staircase. Mrs. Mercer handed her a bucket and instructed her to remove them before breakfast. No one explained who had bled or why. Claire cleaned the marble until it reflected the chandelier, then carried the pink water downstairs without asking a single question. That morning taught her the true purpose of the staff. They did not serve meals or polish furniture. They erased evidence that powerful men had ever lost control. She entered the rear hall, carrying a stack of folded tablecloths just as the front doors opened. Cold air swept into the house. 4 men came inside. 2 armed guards entered first, followed by Victor Hale and Dominic Kane. Claire had seen Dominic many times, but never without feeling the room adjust around him. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, and dressed in a dark overcoat beaded with rain. Victor spoke quietly about containers delayed at the harbor. "Find out who changed the inspection team before noon," Dominic said. Claire stepped close to the wall. A tablecloth slipped from her stack. She caught it before it touched the floor. Dominic stopped. His eyes settled on her red, chemical-burned hands and the small cut across one knuckle, only for a second. Then he continued toward the east wing. Emily appeared beside Claire after he was gone. "He looked at you. He looked at the linen. Men like that do not look at linen." Claire walked away. "Then be grateful he was not looking at you." By noon, rain had settled over the coast. It darkened the windows and turned the sea beyond Grayhaven into hammered steel. Claire spent the afternoon polishing silver in the butler's pantry. Repetition was safe. Pick up the fork. Rub until the tarnish disappeared. Do not think about the cash box. Do not think about Owen. Do not think about Dominic's eyes stopping on her hands. At 6, the kitchen staff prepared dinner for 12 men in the formal dining room. Claire carried trays from the pantry to the service station. That was when Travis Kane arrived. He did not use the front entrance. The kitchen doors swung open, and he walked in trailing rainwater across the tile. Travis was Dominic's cousin, though the resemblance ended with dark hair and expensive clothes. Dominic's stillness made people careful. Travis's energy made them search for exits. His suit was wrinkled, his tie hung loose, and whiskey reached the room before his voice did. He tore meat from a serving platter with his fingers, then stepped into Tessa's path as she carried wine glasses. "New," he said. "Yes, sir. What is your name?" Before she could answer, Claire approached. "Mrs. Mercer needs those glasses upstairs." Tessa handed over the tray and escaped. Travis watched her go, then looked at Claire. "You always clean up other people's messes. I was given an order. You have been here a while, 2 years, and I have never heard you speak. I do not have much to say." His smile followed Claire through the swinging door. At 10:30, dinner ended. The men left the dining room in groups. Claire and Emily cleared plates while Tessa worked beside them with shaking hands. "He did not touch me," Tessa whispered. "That was not what I asked. I should have moved. You did nothing wrong." Tessa looked toward the closed dining room doors. "You stepped in front of him." Claire lifted a stack of dishes. "Stay near the kitchen tonight." At 11:15, Mrs. Mercer sent Claire to empty the service yard bins. The rain had grown heavier. Claire tied a gray coat over her uniform and dragged a black garbage bag through the rear door. The wind struck her immediately cold and wet. Floodlights illuminated the cobblestones. Water streamed along the brick wall and collected near the garage. Claire carried the bag toward the industrial container. The plastic stretched under the weight. She lifted it with both hands and threw it over the metal edge. The bag landed with a heavy thud. She wiped rain from her eyes. A voice came from beneath the garage overhang. "Always working." Claire froze. Travis stepped into the light. He had removed his tie. His shirt was open at the throat. A cigarette burned between 2 fingers. "Mr. Kane." He smiled. You know my name after all. Claire turned toward the house. I need to finish my shift. He moved into her path. You made me look foolish in the kitchen. I carried a tray. You helped that girl walk away from me. She had work to do. Travis took a drink from a silver flask. So do you. Claire tried to step around him. He blocked her again. The brick wall pressed cold against her back. Rain struck the roof above them loud enough to swallow the distant sound of the ocean. Travis looked at her as though deciding what she was worth. You never look at anyone. Claire kept her gaze on the wet stones. I am being respectful. No, you think you are better than us. I do not. Look at me. Claire's stomach tightened. She lifted her eyes. For 1 second she saw the shame behind his arrogance. Then he reached out and caught her jaw, his fingers pressed into her skin. Claire's breath stopped. Travis smelled of whiskey smoke and rain-soaked wool. There, he said softly. That was not difficult. Please let go. His thumb moved across her cheek. You are not bad-looking when you stop pretending to be furniture. Claire did not move. She had learned something important about men like Travis. Fear entertained them. Resistance excited them. Silence sometimes bored them. She emptied her face of everything. Travis frowned. Smile. Mrs. Mercer is waiting. His grip tightened. I did not ask about Mrs. Mercer. Pain spread through Claire's jaw. Please. He leaned closer. Smile for me. Claire stared at him. No. The word escaped before she could stop it. Travis went still. Rain ran down the side of his face. What did you say? Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. I said I need to return to work. His expression changed. The drunken amusement vanished. In its place came something smaller and uglier, wounded pride. He shoved her. Claire's boots slid across the wet cobblestones. She reached for the wall, but her hand caught only rain. The left side of her face struck the brick corner. White light exploded behind her eyes. For several seconds there was no estate, no rain, no sound. Only pressure inside her skull and the sharp copper taste of blood. She collapsed onto one knee. Her palm struck the ground. The world returned in fragments. Water running along the stones. Her own breathing. The burning inside her cheek. Travis stood above her. His cigarette glowed near his hip. For one brief moment, fear crossed his face. He had not expected her to fall that hard. Claire saw the decision happen inside him. Concern became calculation. Calculation became cruelty. You slipped, he said. She touched her mouth. Her fingers came away red. Travis dropped the cigarette beside her. You should be more careful. He walked back toward the house. Claire remained on the ground until the service door closed behind him. The rain soaked through her coat. She wanted to cry. Instead, she picked up the cigarette and threw it into the trash. Then she stood. The kitchen had nearly emptied when Claire returned. She entered through the laundry room so no one would see her face. In the staff bathroom, she locked the door and looked into the mirror. The skin along her left cheek was already swelling. A thin line of blood marked the inside of her lip. She pressed a wet towel against the bruise and waited for the room to stop moving. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Owen had written, "You awake." Claire wanted to tell him everything. Instead, she typed, "Busy. Talk tomorrow." His reply was a single word. Okay. She looked at her swollen reflection and whispered the lie Travis had given her. You slipped. She repeated it until her voice stopped shaking. By Thursday morning, the bruise had darkened across her jaw. Drugstore concealer turned the purple into a sick gray. She let her hair fall loose and kept the injured side of her face angled away from the hall. She chose work in empty rooms, baseboards in the guest wing, shelves in the West Library, silver in the pantry. She avoided Emily. She avoided Tessa. Most of all, she avoided Mrs. Mercer. At 8 that evening, Claire called Owen during her break. You disappeared last night, he said. I was working. You are always working. Claire touched the bruise. I need the money. You need a life. A life costs money. His voice softened. Claire, are you all right? For one dangerous second, she considered telling him. Then she imagined Leonard Price outside Owen's garage. I am fine. Owen did not believe her. I will see you Sunday, he said. Yes. You promise, I promise. At 11 that night, Mrs. Mercer appeared in the butler's pantry. Claire was polishing the same silver spoon for the third time. Coffee, Mrs. Mercer said. Black, no sugar, the blue ledger and the quarterly reports. Claire kept her bruised side turned toward the shelves, where Mrs. Mercer looked at her over the clipboard. You know where. Claire's hand stopped. The study he has been waiting. Send Emily. Emily is serving in the west room. Tessa. Tessa broke 2 glasses this morning and is not going near the east wing. Claire set down the spoon. I am not assigned to Mr. Kane. You are assigned wherever I send you. Mrs. Mercer stepped closer. Claire turned her face farther away. The older woman narrowed her eyes. What are you hiding? Nothing. Look at me. Claire reached for the coffee tray. I need to wash my hands. Mrs. Mercer caught her wrist. Not hard. Hard enough. Claire flinched. The movement pulled her hair away from her cheek. Mrs. Mercer saw the edge of the bruise. Her face changed. Claire, I fell. Mrs. Mercer's eyes held hers. For a moment, Claire thought she might ask the right question. Instead, footsteps sounded in the hall outside. A guard opened the pantry door. Mr. Kane wants the ledger. Mrs. Mercer released Claire. Fear closed over her concern. Wash your hands, she said quietly. Take the tray. Claire understood. Mrs. Mercer had survived 20 years in Grayhaven by knowing when compassion became dangerous. Claire washed her hands until the water ran cold. She placed the blue ledger beside the coffee cup. The porcelain rattled once. She tightened her grip and carried the tray into the east hall. The farther she walked, the quieter the house became. The carpet swallowed her footsteps. Rain moved against the windows. At the end of the corridor, 2 guards stood outside a pair of mahogany doors. One searched the tray, the other opened the study. Warm firelight spilled across the hall. Claire lowered her head and stepped inside. Behind the oak desk beneath the brass lamp, Dominic Kane was reading. He did not look up. Set it on the right. Claire moved toward him, carrying the bruise she had hidden from everyone else directly into the light. The bruise crossed into the pool of lamplight before Claire could turn away. Dominic Kane looked up. His hand stopped above the coffee cup. The study seemed to contract around the silence that followed. Fire shifted in the hearth. Rain tapped against the windows. Claire stood beside the desk with one hand resting on the blue ledger, her loose hair no longer hiding the dark mark across her jaw. Dominic rose. Claire had seen men become angry at Grayhaven. They shouted. They broke glasses. They reached for weapons. Dominic did none of those things. He placed his pen beside the ledger with precise care, then walked around the desk. Look at me. Claire obeyed. His gaze moved over the swelling, the yellow edge near her cheekbone and the thin split inside her lower lip. When he lifted his hand, Claire flinched. Her shoulders rose, her eyes closed. Her body prepared for a blow before her mind could stop it. Dominic froze. The expression that crossed his face was colder than rage. His fingers hovered beside the bruise without touching it. Who gave you that bruise? I fell. No. The single word landed harder than an accusation. Claire kept her eyes on the buttons of his shirt. It was raining. I slipped near the service yard. Dominic studied her in silence. Your hands are clean. She looked down. You would have caught yourself, at least tried. There would be abrasions on your palms. Claire curled her fingers. Dominic moved closer. The injury follows the line of your jaw. Your nose is untouched. Your forehead is untouched. Someone had control of your face before you hit the wall. Her heart beat faster. I don't know what you want me to say. The truth. If I tell you I'll lose my job, you won't. You cannot know that. I decide who works in this house. Claire's throat tightened. Dominic lowered his voice. I also decide who is permitted to put his hands on the people inside it. A tear escaped before she could stop it. Dominic caught it with his thumb. Tell me. Claire whispered the name. Travis. Dominic's hand fell away. His face did not change, but something inside the room did. The fire still burned. The rain still moved against the glass. Yet the man standing in front of her seemed to have withdrawn behind a locked door. My cousin. Claire nodded. He was drunk. He only pushed me. I lost my footing. Only. I don't want trouble. Trouble already found you. Dominic turned toward his desk. Claire followed him with her eyes. What are you going to do? He picked up the telephone. Go downstairs. Mr. Kane. His gaze settled on her. You have worked in this house for 2 years. Have I ever repeated an order to you?" Claire's mouth went dry. "No." "Then go." She backed toward the door. Dominic dialed a number. "Logan." Claire reached the threshold. "Find Travis. Take him to the warehouse in Everett." She stopped. Dominic watched her from across the room, and make sure he understands why he is there. Claire slipped into the hall. The guards closed the doors behind her. For one suspended second, she stood beneath the wall lamps with the empty tray pressed against her stomach. Then Dominic's voice passed through the heavy wood. "No one touches what is under my roof." Claire walked away before she could hear the answer. By the time she reached the kitchen, her hands were shaking so badly that the cup rattled against the tray. Mrs. Mercer looked up from the inventory sheet. "What happened?" Claire placed the tray on the counter. "Mr. Kane said I should go downstairs." Mrs. Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Did he say why no?" The head housekeeper looked at the bruise. Understanding reached her slowly, then fear replaced it. "Go to your room. My shift is not finished. It is now." Claire glanced toward the service doors. "What did he tell you?" "He told me nothing." Mrs. Mercer lowered her voice. "That is when you should listen most carefully." Claire did not sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed while footsteps crossed the basement corridor. The old radiator struck the wall in uneven bursts. Somewhere above her, doors opened and closed. At 1 a.m, a vehicle left the estate. At 1:20, another followed. Claire pressed her palms together. She tried to convince herself that Dominic had sent Travis home. Perhaps he had ordered him to leave Massachusetts. Perhaps the warehouse was only a place for private conversations. She remembered Dominic saying Logan's name. She remembered the complete absence of emotion in his voice. At 2:30, someone knocked on her door. Claire stood so quickly that the room tilted. "Who is it, Mrs. Mercer?" Claire opened the door. The head housekeeper remained in the corridor. "You are relieved from duty for 3 days." Claire stared at her. "Am I being dismissed?" "No." "Then why Mr. Kane's order?" "I can work." Mrs. Mercer looked tired. "You were told to rest." "I cannot lose 3 days of pay. You will be paid." There was no such thing as paid rest for servants at Grayhaven. People worked with fever-cracked ribs and bandaged hands. They worked until their bodies became inconvenient. Claire stepped closer. "Mrs. Mercer, please tell me what is happening." The older woman looked down the empty corridor before answering. "Travis Kane was brought through the rear gate 20 minutes ago." Claire's stomach tightened. Was he hurt? "He was walking." "That does not answer me. It is the only answer I have." Mrs. Mercer returned to the stairs. "Lock your door." "Why?" She stopped without turning. "Because tonight, everyone in this house is waiting to learn what your bruise is worth." Claire locked the door. Morning came without sleep. She opened the collection notice and counted the balance again. $82,000. She had enough cash for the next payment, but Leonard Price expected it on Friday. If Dominic dismissed her after 3 days, she would lose the only income large enough to keep the Calders patient. She thought of Owen beneath the fluorescent lights of the garage, his hands black with oil, believing his sister's greatest problem was working too much. At 9, Claire sent him a message. "I may miss Sunday." His response arrived immediately. "Of course you will." She stared at the words until they blurred. At noon, no one brought lunch. Claire was too frightened to leave the room. She ate 2 crackers from the back of her dresser and drank water from the sink. Every sound in the corridor pulled her attention toward the door. No one came for her. No one mentioned Travis. On the second afternoon, 3 firm knocks struck the wood. Claire rose slowly. "Who is it, Dr. Warren?" She did not recognize the name. "I did not call a doctor." "No, Mr. Kane did." Claire opened the door a few inches. A man in his late 50s stood outside with a black leather medical bag. His silver hair was neatly combed. Wire-rimmed glasses rested low on his nose. Logan Pierce stood behind him. Claire had seen Logan guarding Dominic's study. He was tall, heavily built, and silent enough to make his size feel unnatural. Dr. Warren glanced at the narrow opening. "May I come in? I cannot pay you. Your account has been settled. That does not mean I can afford it. It means someone else can." Claire looked past him at Logan. The security chief stared down the corridor. She opened the door. Dr. Warren stepped into the room and surveyed the concrete walls, the sagging mattress, and the small sink. His expression remained neutral, but his eyes paused on the rust stains beneath the radiator. "Sit near the light." Claire sat on the edge of the bed. He placed his bag on the dresser and removed a small light. "Follow my finger." He checked her pupils, then asked whether she had lost consciousness. "I don't think so. That usually means you are not certain. I remember falling. What happened immediately afterward, I heard the rain. That is not what I asked." Claire looked toward the closed door. Dr. Warren followed her gaze. "Mr. Kane did not instruct me to interrogate you. I only need to know whether you suffered a head injury. I saw white for a few seconds, nausea a little, blurred vision. Only that night." He touched the edge of the bruise. Claire inhaled sharply. "No obvious movement in the bone," he said. "That is good. I cannot rule out a small fracture without imaging. If your vision changes, if the pain increases, or if you feel dizzy, you go to a hospital." He removed 2 bottles from his bag. One for inflammation, one for pain. "Do not take the second if you are working or driving." "I do not drive." Dr. Warren looked around the room again. "No, I suppose you don't." He placed a jar of ointment beside the medicine. "Use this twice a day, ice for 20 minutes, then remove it for 20. Claire touched the expensive glass jar. "Did Mr. Kane tell you what happened?" "He told me where the injury was." "Does he call you for every employee?" Dr. Warren closed his bag. "Mr. Kane does not call me for staff." Claire's fingers went still. "Then why are you here?" The doctor removed his glasses and polished them with a folded cloth. "He calls me for family senior associates and people he has decided not to lose." Claire looked toward Logan. The guard's expression revealed nothing. Dr. Warren put his glasses back on. "Use the ice." He left before Claire could ask another question. The words remained in the room after the door closed. People he had decided not to lose. Dominic barely knew her. For 2 years he had passed her in corridors without speaking. She carried his coffee. She cleaned the rooms after his meetings. She knew the scent of his cigars and the sound of his footsteps. He knew her name. That did not mean he knew her. Claire opened the bottle of pain medication. Her name had been printed on the label. That frightened her more than the bruise. By evening, rumors began moving through the basement. Claire heard voices through the wall while she held an ice pack against her face. They cleared out his apartment. "Who's Travis? Where did he go?" "No one knows. They say Dominic sent him to New York. I heard Canada. I heard he never left Everett." The voices stopped when someone walked past Claire's door. She pressed the ice harder against her cheek. Travis had frightened her. He had humiliated her. He had left her bleeding in the rain. But the possibility that Dominic had killed him settled like a stone inside her chest. She had spoken one name. A man had disappeared. On the 3rd morning, Mrs. Mercer delivered a clean uniform. "You return tomorrow." Claire accepted it. "Is Travis alive?" Mrs. Mercer's face hardened. "Do not ask me that." "Does no one care?" "Care quietly." The older woman looked at the medicine on the dresser. "Dr. Warren came." "Yes." Mrs. Mercer adjusted the edge of Claire's folded apron. "In 20 years I have seen that man enter this estate 6 times. Claire waited. 3 gunshot wounds, 1 stabbing, Dominic's father before he died, Dominic himself after an explosion near the harbor. Her eyes moved to Claire's face. "Now I did not ask for him. That is not the part frightening people." Mrs. Mercer stepped into the corridor. "The frightening part is that Mr. Kane sent him." The following morning, Claire dressed before dawn. The bruise had changed from black to a deep green edged in yellow. The ointment reduced the swelling, but no amount of makeup could erase the mark completely. She climbed the service stairs with her hair covering the left side of her face. The kitchen was loud when she approached. Pans struck metal counters. Water hissed inside the sinks. Someone shouted for more onions. Claire pushed through the doors. Every sound stopped. A cook held a knife above a row of carrots. Tessa stood with her hands submerged in soapy water. Emily looked at Claire, then immediately lowered her eyes. Claire remained beside the door. Mrs. Mercer emerged from the pantry. "You are early. I wanted to make up for the missed shifts. You were paid. I still missed the work. You are on light duty." Claire almost laughed. "There is no light duty here. There is now." Mrs. Mercer handed her a feather duster. The library and the ground floor sitting rooms. Nothing above shoulder height. No lifting. Sit down if you feel dizzy. The head housekeeper's voice was formal, careful. Claire looked around the kitchen. Everyone was pretending not to listen. Mrs. Mercer, I can scrub the guest corridor. Emily will do it. Emily's face tightened. Claire understood. Her protection had already become someone else's punishment. She took the duster. At lunch, Claire carried a tray into the staff dining room. Emily and Tessa sat together near the wall. Claire approached their table. Both women stood. Tessa picked up her plate. We were finished. You just sat down. Neither answered. Claire placed her tray on the table. Is everyone going to do this? Emily looked toward the door. Do what move when I enter. Stop speaking when I walk past. Tessa left without meeting her eyes. Emily remained. Claire lowered her voice. I did not ask him to send a doctor. I know. I did not ask him to remove Travis. Emily swallowed. I know. Then why are you afraid of me because Travis touched you and disappeared? Emily looked at the fading bruise. Because Mrs. Mercer told us not to let you carry anything heavy. Because Logan stood outside the kitchen for an hour this morning. Because Dominic Kane has never cared whether one of us was tired, sick, or bleeding. Claire stared at her. Emily gathered her tray. You are not one of us anymore. I am wearing the same uniform. That is not what people see. Claire ate alone. At 3, she entered the library. The room smelled of leather dust and cold ashes. Gray light moved through the tall windows. The ocean beyond them looked violent enough to break the cliffs apart. Claire dusted shelves that did not need dusting. Her mind returned to the whisper in the basement. He never left Everett. The double doors opened. She did not turn. The room changed before Dominic spoke. You are working. Claire faced him. He wore a charcoal suit and a black tie. There were shadows beneath his eyes, as if he had not slept since the night she left his study. Mrs. Mercer put me on light duty. Dominic closed the doors. The latch settled into place. Claire tightened her grip on the feather duster. His eyes moved directly to the bruise. Warren examined you. Yes. What did he say? No obvious fracture. I have to go to a hospital if my vision changes. Has it? No. Dominic stepped closer. Claire forced herself to remain still. His gaze followed the colors across her jaw. A muscle moved near his mouth. Does it hurt less than before? That was not my question. Yes. Dominic took the feather duster from her hand and placed it on the table. Then you should not be working. I need to work. No. You need money. Claire looked at him. They are the same thing. Not anymore. The words chilled her. What did you do? Travis will not return to Grayhaven. Is he alive? Dominic did not answer immediately. Claire's heart began to pound. Is he alive? Yes. Relief came so quickly that it embarrassed her, Dominic noticed. You care whether he lives. I care whether a man dies because I told the truth. He did not die. What happened to him? He is leaving Massachusetts. Voluntarily, Claire looked away. Dominic continued. He signed away his interest in the family businesses. He surrendered his residence, his accounts, and the protection attached to my name. And the warehouse. Dominic's face remained still. He was taught that the hand he used against you had consequences. Claire imagined Travis beneath white industrial lights. Her stomach turned. You hurt him. I punished him. For me. For believing that a woman without power was a woman without protection. Claire met his eyes. Would you have done the same if he hurt Tessa? A long silence followed. Dominic looked toward the windows. I should have. The answer disturbed her because it sounded honest. He turned back. Travis is alive. He will remain alive as long as he stays outside my territory, and if he comes back, he will not. The certainty in Dominic's voice ended the subject. Claire reached for the duster. Dominic placed his hand over it first. There is something else. She waited. The Calder debt no longer exists. Claire stopped breathing. What your father owed $82,000 to Leonard Price and the Calder crew. The original loan was less than $20,000. The rest was interest and collection fees. The room became unsteady. How do you know that I reviewed the paper this morning? You reviewed it, I purchased it. Claire stared at him. Dominic spoke as though discussing a shipment or a property transfer. The balance has been cleared. The Calders no longer have a claim against you or Owen. No. His expression hardened slightly. No, you cannot do that. I already did. That debt was mine. It belonged to whoever held the paper, and now you hold it. No, it has been canceled. Claire searched his face for the trap. Why? Because Leonard Price had 2 men watching your brother's garage. Her anger vanished. What men? A black sedan on Dorchester Avenue. They changed drivers every 4 hours. Claire remembered the man leaning against the car. You knew. I know when another crew operates near my people. I am not your people. Dominic moved closer. You live under my roof. I scrub your floors. Not anymore. Claire stepped back. The edge of a table pressed against her hip. You spent $82,000 without speaking to me. I removed a threat. You bought my life. No, that is exactly what you did. Dominic's jaw tightened. I bought a ledger entry. You bought the only reason I could pretend I was free. His eyes sharpened. Free I worked. I paid. Every envelope meant I was closer to getting Owen out. The balance increased every month. You would have paid until you died. It was still mine to carry. Dominic looked at her raw hands. Why? Because it was the last thing my father left us. That is not an inheritance. It is a wound. You do not get to decide which wounds belong to me. The words remained between them. Dominic looked at the bruise on her face. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. No. I decide which men are permitted to keep causing them. Claire felt anger rise through the fear. What do you want in return? Nothing. Men like you do not give away $82,000. I did not give it away. Then what did you buy? Dominic's gaze settled on her. Time. For what? To make sure you are alive long enough to stop being afraid of every knock on your brother's door. Claire shook her head. You expect me to believe this is kindness? No. What is it then? Control. The honesty silenced her. Dominic stepped into the space between her and the table. The Calders no longer control your wages. They no longer control where Owen works. They no longer decide whether you sleep at night, and now you do. Yes. The word fell without apology. Claire's pulse climbed. This is a cage. It is protection. Protection with locked gates and armed men is still a cage. Dominic's eyes darkened. A cage keeps danger outside. It also keeps me inside. For the first time, something uncertain crossed his face. It disappeared almost immediately. You will be moved to the 3rd floor. Claire stared at him. The family floor. You are finished with the basement. No, Mrs. Mercer is packing your things now. You ordered her before speaking to me. I knew what my decision would be. You do not know what mine is. Dominic held her gaze. You want to return to the room beside the laundry pipes. I want the right to choose it. You want the illusion of choice because it is familiar. Claire moved around the table. He followed. You cannot erase my debt, move my brother, change my job, and call it protection. I have not moved, Owen. Not yet. Dominic's silence confirmed enough. Claire backed toward the doors. I am leaving. You may leave the library. I mean Grayhaven. The Calders believe I humiliated them. If you walk beyond the gates alone, they will take you before you reach Boston. Because of what you did. Because they were already using you. His voice remained calm. That does not become my fault simply because I stopped pretending otherwise. Claire's hand found the brass handle. It did not move. The doors were locked. She looked at Dominic. He crossed the room and opened them. I will not lock you in a room. You lock the estate. To keep enemies out. And if I become one, Dominic stood close enough for her to feel the warmth of him. You won't. You sound certain. I am. Claire hated that part of her believed him. Logan waited outside. Beside him stood Mrs. Mercer with a small suitcase. Claire recognized it as the one stored beneath her bed. Everything she owned fit inside. Mrs. Mercer held out the handle. Your room is ready. Claire did not take it. Dominic spoke behind her. Logan will escort you. Of course he will. She finally accepted the suitcase. The elevator to the 3rd floor required a silver key. Logan inserted it into the panel. The doors closed. Claire watched her reflection in the polished brass. The fading bruise looked darker beneath the overhead light. Her uniform appeared smaller than it had that morning. The elevator opened with a soft chime. The 3rd floor was silent. No carts, no dishes, no hurried footsteps. Dark wood stretched beneath muted lamps. The walls were covered in pale silk. At the far end of the corridor, tall windows revealed the Atlantic breaking against black rocks. Logan stopped before a pair of double doors. He opened them. The suite beyond was larger than the entire basement staff area. A fire burned in a stone hearth. A bed stood beneath a high ceiling. Fresh clothes waited inside an open wardrobe. On the bed lay a charcoal dress, black shoes, and a silver chain. Claire walked toward the dress. The fabric moved like water beneath her fingers. There was no size label. It had been selected for her body, perhaps measured by someone who had watched her without being noticed. Claire looked toward Logan. Who chose this Mr. Kane? How did he know my size? Logan's expression remained empty. Mr. Kane notices more than people think. The doors closed after he left. The lock did not turn. Claire stood alone in the center of the room. She crossed to the doorway and opened it. Logan remained at the far end of the corridor, not directly outside, still watching. Claire stepped back into the suite. On the bedside table rested a new phone. The first contact listed was Owen. The second was Dominic. Claire looked through the windows at the ocean below. The door was open. The debt was gone. Travis was alive and exiled. Owen was safe for the moment. Every fear she had carried into Grayhaven had been taken from her hands. In their place, Dominic Kane had left something heavier. Himself. Dominic Kane had taken every old fear from Claire's hands and replaced it with himself. That realization followed her through the silent suite. It was there when she opened the wardrobe and found dresses in muted colors, soft sweaters, tailored trousers, and shoes that fit without pinching. It was there when she discovered a bathroom stocked with the same brand of soap she had bought from the discount pharmacy in Boston. It was there when she opened the bedside drawer and found fresh bandages, pain medicine, and a photograph of Owen copied from the one inside her metal cash box. Claire held the photograph beneath the lamp. She and Owen had been children in it. He was missing a front tooth. She had one arm wrapped around his shoulders and the other raised against the sun. No one should have known that picture existed. The bedroom door opened behind her. Claire turned sharply. Mrs. Mercer stood on the threshold with both hands folded over her apron. I knocked. I did not hear you. You were distracted. Claire placed the photograph inside the drawer. How did this get here? Mrs. Mercer looked at it. I was told to bring everything from your room. That was under my mattress. Yes. You searched my bed, I packed your belongings, you opened the cash box. Mrs. Mercer remained composed, but a trace of discomfort entered her eyes. Mr. Kane ordered a complete inventory of 6 uniforms and 3 pairs of socks of anything that could present a danger. Claire laughed once. The sound carried no humor. My whole life fit inside a metal box and he treated it like evidence. Mrs. Mercer closed the door behind her. You should change. Dinner is at 8. I am not hungry. That was not the question. There was no question. Mrs. Mercer's mouth tightened. For the first time since Claire had entered Grayhaven, the older woman looked uncertain about how to speak to her. The dress was selected for dinner. Then Mr. Kane can wear it. Mrs. Mercer lowered her voice. Claire. The use of her name felt almost intimate coming from her. You have no idea what has changed in this house. I know exactly what changed. I was moved upstairs without permission. Travis Kane was family. So everyone keeps saying, Dominic removed him in a single night. Claire looked at the bruise reflected in the mirror. Because Travis hurt me, yes. Mrs. Mercer stepped closer. That is why the staff will not look at you. That is why the guards stand farther from your door than they stand from his. That is why the cook asked what you prefer for breakfast. I did not ask for any of it. It does not matter. Claire turned. It matters to me. Mrs. Mercer studied her for several seconds. Then she looked toward the open wardrobe. When power notices you, what you want becomes the least important thing in the room. The words settled between them. Mrs. Mercer moved toward the door. Dinner is at 8. Dominic does not tolerate lateness. Claire glanced at the clock. 7:36. Does he tolerate refusal? Mrs. Mercer paused. No one has tested it often enough to know. She left. Claire remained in the center of the suite. The charcoal dress waited on the bed. She touched the bruise with 2 fingers. It no longer throbbed constantly. The pain came only when she opened her mouth too wide or pressed the wrong place. The colors had begun to fade, but the marks still looked violent against her pale skin. She considered wearing her uniform. The thought pleased her for 3 seconds. Then she imagined walking into Dominic's dining room dressed in the clothing of a servant after he had ordered the entire house to stop treating her as one. It would not be defiance. It would be surrender to the person she had been. Claire changed into the dress. The silk settled against her body with unsettling precision. The hem reached below her knees. The neckline was modest. Nothing about it was designed to expose her, yet she felt more visible than she had in any uniform. She left the silver chain on the bed. At 7:57, she opened the door. Logan stood near the end of the corridor. He looked at the dress, then at the empty space around her neck. He said nothing. Claire followed him toward the private dining room. The third floor seemed built to swallow sound. Thick carpets softened every step. Dark paintings watched from the walls. There were no family photographs, no flowers, no sign that anyone had ever laughed in those rooms. Logan opened a set of double doors. A long oak table stretched beneath a row of low lights. Only 3 places had been set. Dominic sat at the head. His suit jacket hung over the back of his chair. The top button of his white shirt was open. Victor Hale sat to his right. Claire had seen Victor in the halls and at Dominic's side, but never this close. He was lean, sharp-featured, and older than Dominic by several years. A pale scar cut through his left eyebrow. His eyes moved over Claire with controlled suspicion. Dominic looked up. His gaze traveled from the dress to her face, then to her bare throat. "The necklace did not suit you." Claire took the chair on his left. "I did not choose it." Victor's mouth shifted slightly. Dominic did not smile. "No," he said. "You did not." 2 servers entered with roasted lamb potatoes and green beans. They placed the dishes on the table and vanished without speaking. Claire folded her hands in her lap. Victor poured wine into his glass. "I thought the staff ate downstairs." Dominic lifted his fork. "She is no longer staff." Victor looked at Claire again. "So I heard." His tone was respectful. The meaning beneath it was not. Claire focused on the plate in front of her. Victor continued. $82,000 to the Calder crew. Travis sent out of state. A private physician called to the basement. Dominic cut into the lamb. "You have been busy collecting gossip. I collect information. That is why you keep me near you. Then collect it accurately." Victor leaned back. "The Calders believe we are moving into their gambling territory. We are not. They do not know that. They can ask. They are not likely to ask politely." Dominic ate without hurry. Victor's gaze shifted toward Claire. "From where they are standing, you bought a debt that had nothing to do with us. You removed a member of your own family over a household dispute. Now the woman at the center of it is eating at your table." Claire's fingers tightened beneath the cloth. Dominic placed his fork down. The quiet click against porcelain was enough to silence the room. "Choose your next words carefully." Victor held his gaze. "I am telling you how it looks. I know how it looks. It looks emotional." Dominic's expression remained calm. "In all the years you have known me, have I ever allowed emotion to damage this organization?" Victor waited too long. "No." "Have I ever spent money without understanding the cost?" "No." "Have I ever removed a man who remained useful?" Victor's jaw tightened. "No." "Then stop confusing a decision you dislike with a decision I failed to calculate." Victor took a slow drink of wine. His eyes returned to Claire. She forced herself to meet them. He did not look away. Dominic noticed. "You will treat Claire with the same respect you show me." Victor's face became still. "That is a dangerous standard. It is not a suggestion." For a moment, the 2 men seemed to forget Claire was sitting between them. She felt the weight of years in their silence. Shared blood, shared crimes, buried bodies, promises made before she had ever entered Grayhaven. Victor gave a small nod. Understood. Dinner continued. Claire cut 1 piece of lamb into 4 smaller pieces and ate none of them. When the servers cleared the plates, Victor stood. "Boston at 9 tomorrow?" Dominic nodded. Victor turned toward Claire. "Good night, Miss Bennett." The title sounded like a warning. Claire waited until the doors closed behind him. Then she faced Dominic. "You made that worse." He reached for his wine. "I corrected him. You threatened him because he said what everyone is thinking. He questioned you at my table. He questioned you. There is no difference. There is to me." Dominic studied her. Claire continued. You are forcing them to treat me as something I am not. What are you, a maid? No, I was one yesterday. You are not one now. She pushed her chair back. You think saying something makes it true. Often it does. That is because everyone around you is too afraid to disagree. Dominic's eyes darkened. You are not. Maybe I should be. He rose. Claire remained where she was. Dominic walked to the window. The ocean beyond the glass was black beneath the night. The Calders had people watching your brother. I know. Travis believed he could hurt you because no one would care. I know. The staff saw your bruise and decided silence was safer than helping you. Claire looked toward the closed doors. I know. Dominic turned back. Then explain why you are defending a system that left you alone. I am not defending it. You keep calling yourself a maid as though the word protects you. It tells me where I stand. It tells everyone else where to put their foot. Claire rose. And what does this tell them? She touched the silk at her waist. That I belong to you? Dominic's gaze sharpened. It tells them you are protected. No, it tells them I am yours. He did not answer. Claire laughed softly. There it is. Dominic approached her. She did not step back. You want honesty, she said. Then be honest. You did not move me upstairs because it was safer. You moved me because you wanted me close enough to watch. Yes. The answer unsettled her. You do not deny anything. Would you prefer lies? I would prefer choices. Dominic stopped in front of her. You had choices before. Work until the debt killed you. Leave and wait for the Calders to find Owen. Remain invisible until another man decided you were safe to hurt. Those were not choices. No, neither is this. Dominic looked down at her. Then tell me what you want. The question caught her unprepared. Claire opened her mouth. Nothing came. For 2 years she had wanted only to pay the debt and keep Owen alive. Wanting anything else had felt irresponsible. Dominic waited. Claire finally said, I want guards away from my door. No, I cannot breathe with them standing there. They are 20 feet away. They are still watching every time I leave. That is their job. I want privacy. You want vulnerability. I want to walk down a hallway without being followed. Dominic's jaw tightened. Not outside the 3rd floor. Then move them to the far end of the corridor. They will not see the door. That is the point. He stared at her for several seconds. Claire expected refusal. Instead, he said, They stay near the elevator. She blinked. You agree I heard you. That has not been the same as agreeing. No, Dominic said, it has not. The next morning, the guards stood near the elevator. Claire opened her bedroom door and found the corridor empty around her. It was a small change, barely a concession, yet she stood there longer than necessary, breathing in the quiet. At breakfast, Mrs. Mercer brought coffee and toast to the sitting room. Claire looked at the tray. I can go downstairs. Mr. Kane said meals are to be served here. Of course he did. Mrs. Mercer set the cup down. The guards were moved. Yes, that was your doing. Claire glanced toward the hallway. I asked. Mrs. Mercer looked almost impressed. People ask Dominic Kane for things every day. What happens? He says no. Claire drank the coffee. Maybe they ask badly. The older woman's mouth nearly curved. Nearly. After breakfast, Claire went to the library. For the first time, she entered without a duster. Rows of books surrounded her. She had cleaned them for 2 years without ever opening one. Now she ran her fingers across the spines and selected a medical text from a lower shelf. The book described the bones of the hand. Claire sat near the window and read until she heard the study door open. Dominic entered carrying a folder. He stopped when he saw the book. You are reading about fractures. Dr. Warren said I might have one. You do not. He said he could not be certain without imaging. I had the scans reviewed. Claire lowered the book. What scans? The hospital records. I never went to a hospital. Warren used a portable machine yesterday morning. While I was asleep, he used imaging equipment in your room. Claire stared at him. I remember the visit. You were given medication. I was not unconscious. Dominic opened the folder. Then Warren should have explained it better. That is not the point. What is the point you keep obtaining information about my body without speaking to me? Dominic placed the folder on the table. The point was to make sure your face was not fractured. You could have asked. You would have said you were fine. That does not give you permission. His expression shifted. Not anger. Resistance. He was a man accustomed to solving problems before anyone else realized they existed. Permission was an obstacle he had spent his life removing. Claire closed the book. You cannot protect someone by making them disappear inside your decisions. Dominic looked at her for a long time, then he pushed the folder toward her. Your scans. Claire opened it. There was no fracture. She looked up. I want Dr. Warren to speak to me directly if he examines me again. He will, and no one goes through my medical records without asking. Dominic's mouth hardened. Unless your life is at risk. Claire considered it. Unless I cannot answer for myself. He nodded once. It was not trust, it was negotiation. For Dominic Kane, that may have been more difficult. Over the next week, their lives developed a rhythm Claire had not agreed to and could not entirely resist. Dominic left Grayhaven before dawn most mornings. At 8 every evening, he returned to the dining room. Claire was expected at the table. At first, they spoke only when necessary. He asked about the pain in her jaw. She asked whether Owen remained safe. He said yes. She asked for proof. The following night, a secure phone was waiting beside her plate. Owen answered on the third ring. Claire. The sound of his voice made her chest ache. Where are you? At a hotel near the Common. Some lawyer said the garage building has a gas problem. Claire looked at Dominic. He continued eating. What lawyer? Kane Holdings. They gave me a room until the building is cleared. Claire forced her voice to remain steady. Are there guards? A pause. How do you know about the guards? Are you safe? I think so. Claire, what is going on? She looked at Dominic again. He shook his head once. The gesture was small. Absolute. Claire ended the call 10 minutes later after promising to explain soon. She placed the phone on the table. You lied to him. I protected him. You used those words as though they mean the same thing. The truth would make him leave the hotel. Then let me talk to him. No. Claire stood. Dominic looked up. Sit down. Tell him the truth. The Calders may approach him. Fear will make him careless. He deserves to know why men are following him. He deserves to remain alive. And I deserve to decide what my brother knows. Dominic's face went still. Claire continued. You say you value loyalty. Loyalty without truth is obedience. He leaned back. You believe telling Owen everything will make him safer. I believe treating him like a child will make him reckless. Dominic considered her. The next evening, he handed Claire the secure phone before dinner. You may tell him about the debt, all of it. Not my business operations. I did not plan to discuss your shipping routes. His eyes almost warmed. Almost. Claire called Owen from the library. She told him their father's debt had never been paid. She told him the Calders had watched his garage. She told him that Dominic had purchased the debt and moved him for protection. Owen was silent for so long that Claire thought the call had disconnected. You have been paying this for 2 years. Yes. Why did you not tell me you were 18? I am not anymore. I wanted you to have a normal life. You do not get to destroy yours and call mine normal. Claire closed her eyes. The words struck deeper than anger. I am sorry. No, you are not. You would do it again. She looked through the library windows. Yes. Owen exhaled. Who is Dominic Kane? Claire glanced toward the door. He was standing there. He owns the estate. That is not what I asked. I will explain when I see you. Are you safe? Dominic met her eyes. Claire answered slowly. I am not sure. After the call, Dominic entered. Claire returned the phone. He knows enough. He knows I exist. He asked whether I was safe. What did you say the truth? Dominic's gaze stayed on her. You are safe here. You cannot say that for me. No one will hurt you. Safety is more than not being hit. His eyes moved toward the fading bruise. What else is it knowing what is happening? Being asked before someone changes your life, trusting that the door stays open even when I use it. Dominic looked toward the hall. The door is open. The gates are not. Because there are men outside them who would use you to reach me. Then why make me important? The question stopped him. Claire stepped closer. You could have paid the debt and left me downstairs. You could have fired Travis and forgotten me. No. Why Dominic's face revealed nothing. Claire waited. He looked away first. Later that night, she found a payroll report on the desk in the library. Her name appeared on 3 pages. Claire Bennett, extra shifts, medical deduction denied, raise approved, private review requested. The earliest notation was dated 14 months before Travis touched her. Dominic entered while she was reading. Claire lifted the report. "What is this payroll? You marked my name." "Yes." "Why, Mrs. Mercer requested a raise. 3 times. You refused the first 2. I did not know there were requests. You were sending almost every dollar to Leonard Price. A raise would have increased his collection demands." Claire stared at him. "You knew where my money went. I know where the money leaving this house goes. How long have you been watching me?" Dominic approached the desk. "I was not watching you. You knew about Owen. You knew about the debt. You knew I refused a raise. I knew what happened under my roof. That is not an answer." Dominic placed one hand on the report. "You cleaned rooms where men discussed numbers worth millions. You found cash, weapons, and documents. You never took anything. You never sold anything. You never repeated anything. I was doing my job. You protected Tessa from Travis before he touched you." Claire's breath caught. "You saw that I saw enough. Then why did you let him stay?" The question landed hard. Dominic withdrew his hand. Claire continued. "If you knew what he was, why was he allowed near the staff? He was blood. So blood mattered until he hurt someone you noticed." Dominic's eyes darkened. "Yes." The admission filled the room. Claire expected him to defend himself. He did not. "I should have removed him sooner," he said. She looked at the man feared across Boston and saw something more unsettling than rage. "Regret. You did notice me before the bruise," she said. Dominic met her eyes. "You were invisible to everyone else." His voice lowered. "Not to me." Claire felt heat rise beneath her skin. She folded the report and placed it on the desk. "That does not make this less frightening." "I know. You keep saying that because you keep telling me the truth." A week earlier, the words would have sounded like a threat. Now they sounded dangerously close to respect. That night, Claire could not sleep. At 1 a.m, she left the suite and walked downstairs. The kitchen was empty except for one light above the stove. Dominic sat at the preparation table with his sleeves rolled to his elbows. Blood darkened a cloth around his left hand. Claire stopped. "What happened?" He looked up. "Nothing. You are bleeding on a table where people prepare food. I will have it cleaned." That was not my concern. She crossed the room. A deep cut ran across his palm. A needle and thread lay beside a glass of whiskey. Claire stared at them. "You were going to stitch that yourself. I have before. Dr. Warren asks too many questions." "Yes, so do I. Yes, yet you keep answering." Dominic watched her take the needle. Claire cleaned the cut. His hand remained steady in hers. She had expected his skin to feel cold. It was warm and rough with old scars. What did this broken glass? That is not the whole truth. A man broke a bottle and I took it away from him. Claire threaded the needle. Did he survive? Yes. Was that mercy? No. He still had information I needed. She looked at him. Dominic did not smile. Claire began stitching. He did not flinch. "Does nothing hurt you? Many things. You hide them well. So do you." Her fingers paused. Dominic's gaze dropped to the last trace of yellow along her jaw. Claire finished the final stitch and tied it. "You should let Warren look at it." "He will. You are lying." "Yes." She released his hand. Neither moved. The kitchen seemed smaller in the quiet. Dominic turned his palm upward beneath hers. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist. Claire's breath changed. He noticed. His hand stopped. For the first time, he waited. Claire could pull away. She did not. The moment lasted only seconds. Then footsteps sounded in the corridor. Claire withdrew her hand. Dominic covered the wound. Victor entered the kitchen. His eyes moved from the needle to Claire, then to Dominic's hand. "I did not realize the household had a new physician." Claire stood. "Good night." Victor stepped aside to let her pass. As she entered the corridor, she heard his voice behind her. "She is becoming comfortable," Dominic answered. "No. What would you call it? Brave." Claire walked away before they could hear her breathing. The next afternoon, she asked Dominic about Travis again. They stood in the library beside the fire. "You said he was alive." "He is. Where's Chicago? What did you do to his hand?" Dominic did not answer. Claire looked directly at him. "You said he was taught consequences. I broke 2 bones." She absorbed the words. "Because he grabbed me. Because he used my family name as permission. You could have killed him." "Yes." "Why didn't you?" Dominic looked into the fire. "Because you would have carried the death as if you caused it." Claire felt the truth of that. You thought about that. I think about everything that reaches you. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. She moved closer to the hearth. If he hurt another maid, would you break his hand? Dominic's jaw tightened. I told you. I should have acted sooner. That is not an answer. Yes. The word came quietly. Yes, I would. Claire believed he meant it. That belief frightened her almost as much as the violence. Victor found Dominic in the study that evening. Claire was passing through the East Hall when she heard her name through the partially open door. She stopped. Victor's voice was controlled. The Calders are asking why the Bennett debt mattered. Dominic replied, Let them ask. They are also asking why Owen Bennett is under our protection. Claire moved closer to the wall. Victor continued, You erased their leverage and gave them a more valuable target. They will not reach either of them. That is not the point. It is the only point. No, the point is that every man in Boston now knows there is one person in Grayhaven you cannot replace. Silence followed. Claire held her breath. Dominic spoke. Then make sure they never reach her. Victor's answer came after a pause, and if she is the danger, Claire stepped away before either man saw her. The next day passed beneath heavy rain. Dominic left before dawn. Claire spent the morning reading beside the windows in her suite. At noon, she called Owen. He was angry but safe. At 2, Mrs. Mercer brought tea. At 2:30, the guards changed position near the elevator. At 2:47, something scraped softly against the bottom of Claire's door. She looked up. A folded piece of paper rested on the carpet. Claire remained in the chair. No footsteps sounded in the hall. She crossed the room slowly and picked it up. It was the torn back of a bakery receipt. 4 words had been written in black ink. Calders took Owen. Come alone. Claire read the message twice. Then she looked toward the open wardrobe where her old gray sweater had been folded beneath silk and cashmere. Outside rain struck the windows hard enough to erase the ocean. Claire held the torn receipt between both hands. Calders took Owen. Come alone. The words looked crude beneath the soft bedroom light. 4 block letters. No signature. No instructions beyond the command. Her first thought was that Dominic had been wrong. Her second was that this was his fault. The Calders had watched Owen before Dominic entered their lives. They had known where he worked, where he slept, and which bus he took home after late shifts. But Dominic had taken their debt, humiliated their crew, and hidden Owen inside a hotel protected by Kane men. He had turned an unpaid balance into a challenge. Claire crossed the room and grabbed the phone from the bedside table. She called Owen. The line rang once, twice, then went to a recorded message. Her pulse climbed. She called again. No answer. Claire pressed the phone against her ear until the message ended. She tried the secure number Dominic had given her. The line remained silent for several seconds before disconnecting. The paper trembled in her hand. She walked to the bedroom door and opened it. The corridor was empty. The guards had been moved near the elevator because she had asked for privacy. From where she stood, she could not see them. They could not see her. Dominic had compromised. Victor had warned him not to. Now Owen was gone. Claire closed the door. Think. Panic made noise. Panic broke things. Panic turned one danger into 3. She had survived 2 years inside Grayhaven because she knew how to think while afraid. The note had reached her room without anyone knocking. The person who delivered it knew the guards had moved. They knew Owen mattered. They knew Claire would understand the Calder name. Someone inside the estate had helped them. Claire should have called Dominic. The correct decision was obvious. She imagined his response. He would lock the floor. He would send armed men into Boston. He would surround Owen with gunfire and call it rescue. If the Calders wanted revenge, Owen would become the first body left in the street. Claire looked at the note again. Come alone. Men like the Calders did not want conversation. They wanted leverage. She understood leverage better than most people. It was a weight placed against the weakest part of a person until they bent. Dominic had made Claire valuable. Owen was the part of her that still bent. She went to the wardrobe. The silk dresses and soft sweaters hung in perfect order. Beneath them on the lowest shelf, Mrs. Mercer had folded the old clothes Claire wore before Dominic moved her upstairs. Faded jeans, a gray sweater, scuffed boots. Claire changed quickly. The clothes smelled faintly of basement detergent and dust. They felt like armor because they belonged to the woman who had known how to move through Grayhaven without being noticed. She pulled her hair into a knot and slipped the note into her pocket. The new phone stayed on the table. Dominic could trace it. Claire opened the door again. The hall remained silent. She stepped out and turned away from the elevator. At the far end of the corridor stood a narrow service door disguised within the silk-covered wall. Staff used it to move linens without crossing the family rooms. Claire had opened it hundreds of times before she was forbidden from working upstairs. The latch released without sound. She entered the stairwell. Concrete replaced wood beneath her feet. The air smelled of dust and metal. Pipes traveled along the walls carrying heat and water through the estate. Claire descended. Third floor, second, first. She stopped before the basement landing. Voices drifted through the service door below. 2 guards were speaking near the laundry corridor. Logan wants another sweep of the west side. For what? Camera problem. Claire held her breath. A camera problem. She thought of Victor's warning through the study door. And if she is the danger, the guards moved away. Claire waited until their footsteps disappeared before entering the basement. The old corridors received her without judgment. She passed the laundry room, the boiler, and the locked storage cage. Steam softened the edges of the ceiling lights. Somewhere nearby, a washing machine entered its final cycle. Claire moved quickly but did not run. Running attracted eyes. At the end of the corridor stood a heavy maintenance door that opened onto the rear gardens. The door was locked. Claire knelt beside the lower hinge. Months earlier, she had noticed that the frame expanded during rain. The deadbolt caught against the swollen wood unless pressure was applied near the bottom. She placed one hand against the door and pulled the handle upward. The metal scraped. Once. Twice. The bolt released. Cold rain struck her face. Claire slipped outside and closed the door behind her. The storm had turned the estate grounds into a moving darkness. Floodlights illuminated the rear wall, but the hedges created narrow channels of shadow. Claire stayed close to them. Mud pulled at her boots. Water soaked through her sweater within seconds. She passed the old greenhouse and crouched behind a stone planter as a guard crossed the lawn. He carried a flashlight but kept his head down against the rain. Claire waited. When the light disappeared, she moved toward the perimeter wall. The iron gates near the main road were impossible. Cameras covered every angle and guards checked every vehicle. The western wall was different. An old oak tree grew close enough for its branches to reach above the iron spikes. Claire had noticed it while trimming hedges the previous summer. She reached the tree and grabbed the lowest branch. Wet bark tore at her palms. She pulled herself upward. Her boots slipped. She tried again. Pain moved through her shoulders as she dragged her body onto the branch. One more climb and she could reach the wall, going somewhere. The voice cut through the rain. Claire's foot slipped. She fell into the mud. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. She rolled onto her back. Dominic stood beneath the nearest floodlight. A black raincoat covered his suit. Water ran from his hair onto his face. Logan and 2 guards waited behind him with their hands inside their coats. Dominic did not look angry. Anger would have been easier. He looked disappointed, deeply, quietly, as though Claire had confirmed something he had tried not to believe. She pushed herself onto one knee. "You cannot stop me." Dominic stepped forward. "I already have. They took Owen." "No, they did not. You do not know that. I know exactly where your brother is." Claire rose. Mud covered her knees. She reached into her pocket and threw the receipt at him. Dominic caught it. His eyes moved across the words. Then he looked at her. "Where did you get this under my door? When 20 minutes ago? Why did you not call me? I tried Owen. That was not my question." He did not answer. Dominic crushed the paper inside his fist. "You should have called me, so you could start a war so I could tell you the truth." Claire laughed breathlessly. "You tell me the truth after you have already decided what I am allowed to know." Dominic closed the distance between them. "Owen is safe. Then let me speak to him." "You will. Now, inside." "No." Claire tried to move past him. Dominic caught her upper arm. She twisted away. "Let go. Stop fighting me. He is my brother, and he is alive. You do not know that." I had breakfast brought to his room this morning. At noon, he left the hotel gym. At 1:30, he complained to Logan's men that the coffee was terrible. At 2:10, he called the garage and asked when he could return to work. Claire stared at him. The rain ran into her eyes. Dominic continued. At 2:20, I ordered the hotel moved to full security because someone disabled a camera outside your corridor. The fight inside her paused. You knew I knew someone was moving inside Grayhaven without permission, and you said nothing to me. I was on my way back when you opened the maintenance door. Claire looked toward the men behind him. Logan remained expressionless. The guards had followed her. Or Dominic had known exactly where she would go. A colder thought entered her mind. How long were you watching? Dominic's face changed slightly. Claire understood before he spoke. The note had not come from the Calders. You knew it was there. No, but you knew someone might contact me. I suspected Victor. The rain seemed to grow louder. Claire stepped back. Victor. Dominic looked at the paper in his hand. He wanted to know whether you would run. The words landed slowly. Claire's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Dominic's voice remained controlled. He believed you were a security risk. He believed fear would send you toward the first person who offered a way out, so he used Owen. Yes, and you let him. No. You watched me reach the wall. I stopped you before you crossed it. That is not the same thing. Claire struck his chest. The blow had no effect. She struck him again. You let me believe my brother had been taken. Dominic caught her wrists. I did not authorize the note, but you knew Victor suspected me. Yes, you knew he was testing me. Not how. Claire tried to pull free. Let go. Claire, let go of me. He released her. She stepped back so quickly that her heels slid in the mud. Dominic reached for her. She raised one hand. Do not touch me. He stopped. For several seconds neither moved. Rain fell between them like a curtain. Claire's voice shook. You said no one would hurt me here. No one will. Victor did. He frightened you. He made me believe Owen was being tortured. Dominic's jaw hardened. He will answer for that. To whom? To me. Claire stared at him. That is the problem. His eyes narrowed. You think everything ends with you. In this house it does. No. Everything begins with you. Every order, every secret, every danger. You make the decision and everyone else lives inside it. Dominic said nothing. Claire pointed toward Grayhaven. You moved the guards because I asked. Then Victor used the space you gave me to prove I could not be trusted. He will not do it again. You still do not understand. Then explain it. Her throat tightened. I did not run away from you. Dominic's expression shifted. I ran toward Owen. You ran toward men you believed wanted to use you because I thought it would keep him alive. They would have killed you, maybe. The word tore through Dominic's control. He stepped closer. Do not say that. Claire did not move. Why? Because my life is yours to protect, because you walked into a storm prepared to trade your body for your brother. I have been doing that for 2 years. Dominic's face went still. Claire continued. I traded my hands, my sleep, my future. I worked in your basement because every dollar kept the Calders away from him. You did not create that instinct. You only gave it a new enemy. Dominic looked at her as if seeing something he had not allowed himself to understand. You think that is loyalty. What would you call it, suicide? I would call locking someone in a mansion and calling it safety another kind of death. Logan shifted behind Dominic. Dominic raised one hand without looking back. The security chief and both guards retreated several yards. Claire rubbed rain from her face. You wanted to know whether I would leave. No, Victor did. And what did you want? Dominic's answer came quietly. I wanted him to be wrong. The honesty weakened her anger for half a second. She hated him for that. Her ankle throbbed where she had fallen. Claire turned toward the tree. I am going to Owen. Dominic stepped in front of her. You can speak to him inside. I am not going back into that house. You are injured. I am fine. You are limping. Claire took one step. Pain shot through her ankle. Her knee buckled. Dominic caught her before she hit the ground. She pushed against his chest. I said, do not touch me. You are hurt. I do not care. I do. He lifted her into his arms. Claire struggled. Put me down. No, Dominic. The sound of his name stopped both of them. She had never spoken it without formality. His grip tightened, not painfully, but as if the single word had reached somewhere violence could not. You can hate me inside, he said. Claire looked toward the wall, toward the road beyond it, then toward the men standing in the rain. There was nowhere she could go without Dominic's world following her. That truth had always frightened her. Now it made her tired. She stopped fighting. Dominic carried her back toward the estate. The maintenance door remained open. He looked at the damaged frame as they entered. "You learned how to open this while you worked downstairs?" "Yes." "How many guards did you pass?" "3. Cameras 2. Neither covered the greenhouse." Dominic glanced at Logan. "Fix it." Claire rested her head against the wet collar of Dominic's coat. "You are using my escape to improve security. I use everything." "I noticed." Inside the basement, employees moved against the walls as Dominic passed. No one looked directly at Claire in his arms. Mrs. Mercer stood near the laundry room. Her face lost color. What happened? Dominic did not slow. "Prepare her room. Call Warren. No doctor." Claire's voice echoed through the corridor. Dominic looked down at her. "My ankle is twisted. It is not broken. You do not know that. I know what pain feels like. You said that about your face, and I was right. You were not." Mrs. Mercer watched the exchange in silence. Dominic exhaled. "No doctor unless the swelling increases." Claire looked at him. He continued walking. "That was agreement, not surrender." "I know." In the suite, Mrs. Mercer brought dry clothes and towels. Dominic set Claire on the edge of the bed. She pulled the towel around her shoulders. He remained standing. Water dripped from his coat onto the carpet. "Leave," Claire said. Mrs. Mercer looked at Dominic. He gave a small nod. She left and closed the door. Claire watched him. "I meant you." Dominic removed his coat. "No." Her anger returned. "You said no one enters this room without permission. You have not made that rule yet. I am making it now." Dominic looked at her wet hair and muddy clothes. "Change. I will wait outside." Claire expected an argument. He walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned. "Owen is safe. Let me hear his voice." Dominic took out his phone. He called a number and placed it on the table. The line connected. A sleepy voice answered. "Hello." Claire grabbed the phone. "Owen." "Claire. Why are you calling from another number?" Her eyes closed. "You are all right. Of course I am. Are you crying?" "No, you sound strange. I needed to hear you." A pause. "What happened?" Claire looked at Dominic. He opened the door. "I will give you privacy." He stepped into the corridor and closed it behind him. Claire spoke to Owen for 10 minutes. She asked where he was, what he had eaten, and whether anyone had approached him. Owen answered with increasing confusion. Finally, he said, "You are scaring me. I am sorry. What is going on at that house?" Claire looked at the note still crushed inside Dominic's hand in her memory. "Something I should have told you sooner." She promised to call again. After the line disconnected, Claire changed into dry clothes. Her ankle had begun to swell. She wrapped it tightly with a towel and sat near the fire. Dominic knocked. She stared at the door. He knocked again. "Come in." He entered carrying a tray with 2 glasses of whiskey and a small bag of ice. Claire looked at the drinks. "I do not want whiskey." Dominic placed the tray on the table. He wrapped the ice in a cloth and knelt in front of her. Claire moved her foot away. "I can do it." "I know." "Then let me." He handed her the ice. Claire pressed it against her ankle. Dominic sat in the chair opposite her. For once, he did not fill the silence with an order. The fire cracked. Rain moved across the windows. Claire looked at him. "Did you know Victor would use Owen? No. Did you know he had turned off the camera? I knew a camera went dark. I did not know why. When did you realize when Logan found the guard near the elevator unconscious in a service closet?" Claire's hand tightened around the ice. "Victor hurt one of your men. He drugged him. That is supposed to make it better, no? Why did you not call me?" Dominic looked into the fire. "I was 6 minutes from the estate. You thought you could reach me before the danger did." "Yes. You always think that. Usually I'm right. Today you were lucky." His eyes moved to hers. "I do not rely on luck. You did when you left my brother's name in the hands of a man who wanted to test me." Dominic's face hardened. "I trusted Victor." Claire laughed without humor. "And he trusted me so much that he tried to break me. He believes his responsibility is to protect the organization. From me." "Yes." The answer hurt more than she expected. Claire looked down at the ice. Dominic leaned forward. "He was wrong. You do not know that. I watched you run. You watched me make the worst possible decision. I watched you cross a secured estate in 7 minutes. You avoided cameras, opened a locked door, passed 3 guards, and reached the wall without help. Claire frowned. That is not a compliment, it is an assessment. I was terrified. You still thought. I was not thinking. I was trying to reach Owen. That is what Victor failed to understand. Dominic rested his forearms on his knees. You did not run toward freedom. You ran toward danger because you believed someone you loved was inside it. Claire stared at him. That makes me reckless. Yes. His mouth shifted. Stubborn, disobedient, poorly trained. I am not one of your soldiers. No. Something warmer entered his voice. You are far more difficult. Claire looked toward the windows. You sound proud. I am. She did not know what to do with that. The firelight moved across Dominic's face. He looked tired, not physically, something deeper. Claire said Victor was right about one thing. Dominic waited. I do not trust you. I know. You keep secrets until you decide I can handle them. Yes, you move people around me as though they are pieces. Yes, you call it protection when it is really control. Dominic did not deny it. Claire continued. If I stay here, that changes. The room became still. Dominic looked directly at her. If? Claire held his gaze. Yes. He sat back. What do you want? She had not expected the question to frighten her. Claire removed the ice from her ankle. I speak to Owen whenever I choose. Agreed. You do not move him without telling me. If there is immediate danger, I move him first, and tell me as soon as he is safe. Agreed. No one enters this room without permission. Medical emergencies are an exception, if I cannot answer for myself. Dominic nodded. Claire continued. I can leave Grayhaven. His expression changed. With security, I choose when. With security, I choose where. With security. Claire exhaled. Fine. Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly. That was easier than expected. I am not finished. Of course not. You tell me the truth when my life or Owen's life is involved. Yes. Even if you think I will react badly. Yes. Even if the truth makes me leave. Dominic went silent. Claire waited. His jaw tightened. Yes. The answer seemed to cost him something. She continued. You do not use protection as permission to own me. Dominic looked at her for several seconds. No. Claire's pulse changed. No, I will protect you. That was not what I asked. I know. Then answer. Dominic rose from the chair. He crossed the distance between them and stopped in front of her. Claire remained seated. He looked down at her with an intensity that made the fire seem colder. I will not force you into my bed. Claire's breath caught. I will not touch you when you tell me not to. I will not lock you in this room. I will not prevent you from seeing your brother. His voice lowered. But I will not stand here and promise that I do not think of you as mine. That is not love. I did not call it love. What do you call it, truth? Claire looked up at him. Thinking something does not make it true. No. A faint, dangerous warmth entered his eyes. But hearing you challenge me may be the closest thing to truth I have left. Claire stood carefully. Her ankle protested. Dominic reached for her, then stopped before touching her. The pause mattered. Claire noticed. So those are my conditions, she said. You are giving orders in my house. I am telling you what it costs for me to stay. The final word changed his face. Stay. Dominic's hand lowered. You were planning to stay, I have not decided. He studied her, then he stepped back. Victor is waiting downstairs. Claire looked toward the door. What are you going to do to him? What should I do? The question felt like a trap. She searched Dominic's face. He was serious. You want me to decide. He used your brother. He violated your room. He compromised my security. He also wanted to protect you. He wanted to protect the organization from me. Yes. Claire wrapped the towel more tightly around her shoulders. I want to speak to him. Dominic's expression hardened. Claire, you asked what I wanted. He looked toward the door, then back at her. Very well. Victor entered 10 minutes later. His suit was dry. His expression was calm. Only the small cut near his mouth suggested that someone had already objected to his methods. He stopped several feet from Claire. Dominic stood near the fireplace. Logan remained outside the door. Claire looked at Victor. You planted the note. Yes. You used Owen's name. Yes. Why Victor's eyes did not move from hers. Because Dominic has changed the security of this house for you. I asked for guards to move 20 feet, and a camera was left without direct coverage. You disabled the camera. To test the response, you drugged a guard. He will recover. Claire remembered saying similar words about Travis. He only pushed me. The language of men like Victor reduced harm until it sounded necessary. You wanted me to run. I wanted Dominic to see what you would do under pressure. And what did I do? You compromised security and attempted to reach the enemy alone. I tried to reach my brother. That distinction does not matter to a bullet. Claire held his gaze. You were right. Victor's expression shifted. Behind him, Dominic became very still. Claire continued, I am not trained for this world. I make decisions with my heart. I know every passage in this house because I spent years cleaning them. I can leave without being seen. Victor glanced toward Dominic. Claire leaned forward. That means you should have spoken to me. You are not part of our command. No, I am the person whose brother you used. Victor's face tightened. Claire said you thought fear would make me run away from Dominic. It made you run, toward the men I believed had Owen. Victor did not answer. I did not go because I trusted the Calders. I went because I did not trust Dominic to leave anyone alive long enough to save my brother. Her eyes moved toward Dominic. He accepted the accusation without reaction. Claire looked at Victor again. You did not prove I was disloyal. You proved I did not believe this house would tell me the truth. Silence filled the suite. Dominic finally spoke. What should happen to him? Victor's eyes sharpened. Claire looked at Dominic. You are asking me in front of him? Yes. Why? Because his offense was against you. Victor said, Dominic, be quiet. The underboss obeyed. Claire could ask for blood. She could ask for Victor's position, his hand, or the exile Dominic had given Travis. She looked at the scar through his eyebrow, then at the bruise near his mouth. Violence would be easy here. That was why it carried so little meaning. He keeps his life, Claire said. Victor's expression remained controlled. He keeps his position. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Claire continued, but he shows me every weakness he found in Grayhaven. Every blind corridor, every failed camera, every way someone could reach Owen or me. Victor looked at her. And he never uses my brother again. Dominic turned toward him. You heard her. Victor's jaw tightened. She has no authority over security. Dominic's voice became quiet. She does now. The words changed the air. Victor looked at Claire for a long moment. Then he lowered his head. Understood. He left without another word. The door closed. Claire turned to Dominic. You enjoyed that? No. You made him obey me. I made him acknowledge you. That is not the same thing. It will become the same thing. Claire looked at him. You are still trying to turn me into something. Yes, at least you are honest. Always. She raised an eyebrow. When it is convenient. Dominic almost smiled. He left the suite after midnight. Claire slept poorly. In the morning, she woke to sunlight on the floor and an empty corridor beyond her door. No guard stood near the elevator. On the table beside the window rested a phone, a set of car keys, and a white envelope. Claire opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. The car is downstairs. Logan will drive you anywhere you choose. The gates are open. Claire read the final line twice. There were no conditions beneath it. No warning. No order to return. She crossed to the window. Far below, a black car waited in the circular drive. Logan stood beside the driver's door. Claire picked up the keys. For the first time since entering Grayhaven 2 years earlier, every locked gate between her and the outside world had been opened by Dominic Kane. Claire stood in the quiet suite, holding the freedom she had demanded and wondering whether leaving would feel anything like being free. The answer did not come. She changed into dark trousers, a cream sweater, and the black coat Mrs. Mercer had placed near the door. The clothes belonged to Grayhaven, but she chose them herself. That distinction mattered. The elevator carried her to the main floor. No guards blocked the hall. No one asked where she was going. Dominic was not waiting near the staircase to change her mind. The absence of him felt deliberate. Outside, Logan opened the rear door of the black sedan. Where to? Miss Bennett Claire looked toward the upper windows of Grayhaven. Curtains moved behind one pane, but she could not tell whether Dominic stood there. The Commonwealth Hotel. Logan nodded. The iron gates opened. Claire watched them disappear behind the car. For 2 years, she had imagined passing through those gates without a uniform, without permission, without a debt waiting at the other end. She had expected relief. Instead, she felt as though part of her remained inside the dark house on the cliff. Boston emerged beneath a pale morning sky. Traffic filled the streets. People carried coffee, argued into phones, and crossed intersections without looking over their shoulders. Ordinary life continued as if criminal empires did not move beneath it. The Commonwealth Hotel stood near the edge of the public garden. 2 Kane guards waited in the lobby. They stepped aside when Claire approached. Owen opened the door before she finished knocking. He stared at her. Then he pulled her into his arms. Claire held him tightly. He smelled of soap motor oil and the cheap laundry powder he had used since leaving home. For several seconds, neither spoke. Owen released her and looked at her face. The bruise had faded, but a shadow remained near her jaw. What happened? Claire touched the mark. I fell. His expression hardened. Do not lie to me again. She lowered her hand. Dominic's cousin pushed me. Owen went still. What did Dominic do? He removed him. That does not sound legal. It was not. Owen stepped away. The hotel room was large, but half-packed bags made it feel temporary. Food containers covered a small table. A guard's jacket hung over a chair near the door. Owen turned toward the window. You have been living with these people for 2 years. Yes. Paying Dad's debt. Yes. Protecting me from men I did not know existed. Yes. He faced her. And now Dominic Kane decides where I sleep. Claire heard her own anger in his voice. I came to change that. Did he let you leave? Claire looked toward the door. Yes. Just like that, he opened the gates. Owen studied her. Then why do you look like you left something behind? Claire sat on the edge of the bed. I do not know. You know. She looked at her brother. Owen folded his arms. Is he holding you prisoner? He tried to protect me by making every decision for me. That is not an answer. No, he is not holding me prisoner. Are you afraid of him? Yes. Owen's face tightened. Claire continued. But I am not afraid he will hurt me. What are you afraid of? She looked down at her hands. That I understand him. Owen sat beside her. He is a criminal, I know. He hurts people, I know. He took our debt because he wanted something. Claire thought of Dominic standing in the library telling her he could not promise that he would stop thinking of her as his. He wanted me close. And do you want that? Claire did not answer. Owen leaned forward. You spent years deciding what was best for me without asking. You lied because you thought the truth would hurt me. Claire closed her eyes. You are right. I am not saying that to punish you. I know. You sound exactly like him. The words struck deeper than Owen intended. Claire looked toward the window. She had hated Dominic for treating protection like ownership. Yet she had done the same thing to Owen with softer hands and better excuses. I thought keeping you ignorant would keep you safe. It kept me powerless. Claire nodded. I am sorry. Owen exhaled. What happens now? Before Claire could answer, 3 sharp knocks struck the door. The guard near the entrance looked through the peephole. His hand moved beneath his jacket. Get away from the door. A burst of gunfire shattered the lock. The guard fell backward. Owen grabbed Claire. Another Kane man entered from the adjoining room and fired through the opening. Glass exploded in the hallway. Service stairs, he shouted. Claire pulled Owen toward the rear of the suite. Smoke entered beneath the door. They ran through the bedroom and into a narrow corridor used by hotel staff. A man in a gray uniform appeared near the stairwell. He held a radio. Elevators are secured, this way. Claire stopped. The man's shoes were polished black leather. Hotel employees wore rubber soles. His radio was tuned to a frequency used by Dominic's guards. Down, Claire shouted. She pulled Owen to the floor. The man reached inside his jacket. The Kane guard fired first. The attacker fell against the wall. Claire stared at him. A Calder tattoo marked the inside of his wrist. The guard grabbed her arm. Move! They descended 5 flights. Owen breathed hard behind her. At the second-floor landing, another explosion shook the stairwell. Claire heard screams below. She remembered Grayhaven's service corridors. Hotels were built the same way, public spaces in front, workers and machinery behind. There is a loading bay beneath the kitchen. The guard looked at her. How do you know? Because hotels hide labor the same way mansions do. They entered the kitchen through a steel door. Cooks crouched beneath counters. Sprinklers rained water across the floor. Claire led Owen past the storage rooms toward the freight corridor. Logan waited near the loading dock with 3 armed men. Blood covered one sleeve. He pulled Claire behind a concrete pillar. "Are you hit? No, Owen, I am fine," Owen said. Logan spoke into his radio. "We have them," a voice answered. "Dominic's. Bring them to me." Claire heard the cold control beneath each word. They reached Grayhaven before noon. Dominic waited in the entrance hall. He crossed the marble floor as the doors opened. His eyes moved over Claire, then Owen. "Are you hurt?" "No." He touched Claire's face, then stopped as if remembering every boundary she had placed between them. She took his wrist and pressed his palm against her cheek. Only then did he breathe. Owen watched. Dominic lowered his hand. The Calders had help, Claire said. One attacker wore a hotel uniform and carried a Kane radio. Victor entered from the East Hall. His expression was grim. Someone gave them the security rotation. Dominic looked at him. Victor continued. "There is only one man outside Grayhaven who knew the old hotel protocol." Claire understood. "Travis." Dominic's face emptied. Victor nodded. "He contacted the Calders from Chicago. They promised him protection if he gave them access to Owen." Dominic turned toward the windows. For a moment no one spoke. Claire saw the cost of mercy in his silence. He had spared Travis because she would have carried his death. Now Travis had nearly killed Owen. Dominic faced Victor. "Set a meeting." Owen stepped forward. "You are going after him." Dominic looked at him. "He came after my family." "I am not your family." Dominic's gaze moved to Claire. "No," he said. "But she is." Claire felt Owen look at her. She did not deny it. That evening, Dominic prepared to leave for an abandoned shipyard north of Boston. Claire found him in the study loading a pistol. "I am coming." "No. You promised the truth when my life was involved. I told you the truth. Travis used Owen to reach me." Dominic closed the weapon. "You will remain here. That is an order." "Yes." "Then you have already broken our agreement." His jaw tightened. "This is not a conversation. It is now." Dominic stepped closer. "Travis wants you there. That is why you will stay." Claire held his gaze. "He used me when I was powerless. He is still using that version of me in his head. And you intend to prove something, yes. To him, to myself." Dominic looked toward the weapon on the desk, then back at her. "You remain behind Logan. You do not move unless he moves. You do not speak unless I allow it." Claire raised an eyebrow. One condition too many. A faint darkness touched his mouth. "You may speak." The shipyard stood beside a frozen stretch of water. Rust covered the cranes. Wind moved through broken windows. Travis waited beneath a hanging industrial lamp with 4 Calder men. Dominic entered with Victor and 6 guards. Claire remained behind Logan in the shadows. Travis looked thinner than before. His right hand was wrapped in a black brace. "You broke blood for a servant," he said. Dominic stopped beneath the light. "I removed a liability." Travis laughed. "You moved her upstairs, bought her family, opened your house to her." His eyes searched the darkness. "She made you weak." Claire stepped forward. Logan reached for her arm. She kept moving. Dominic saw her. He did not stop her. Travis smiled. "There she is." Claire stood beside Dominic. "I was never the reason you lost your place." Travis's expression changed. "You should have stayed below the stairs. You should have learned that silence is not permission." He looked at her coat, her steady posture, and the men waiting behind her. "You think standing beside him makes you powerful?" Claire met his eyes. "No. Surviving men like you did that." Travis reached inside his jacket. Dominic fired once. The sound struck the steel walls. Travis fell. The Calder men raised their weapons. Victor's men moved first. The confrontation ended in seconds. When the echoes died, Dominic stood with the gun lowered. He looked at Claire. Not for approval, for judgment. Claire stared at Travis's body. She felt no triumph, only finality. "He made his choice," she said. Dominic nodded. Back at Grayhaven, he met Claire in the library. Documents waited on the table. Her father's debt had been cleared permanently. Owen had received money for school and relocation. Claire's unpaid wages and additional compensation had been placed in an account under her name. A passport rested beside the papers. Dominic stood near the fire. The gates are open. Claire touched the documents. And if I leave, my men will protect you until you are beyond my enemies. And after that, Dominic's face became unreadable. I learned to live with losing something I should never have tried to own. Claire walked toward the door. He did not follow. Her hand closed around the brass handle. She could leave. No debt, no locked gates, no orders. Claire looked back. Dominic remained beside the fire, waiting for the consequence of finally giving her freedom. She closed the door. Why, he asked. Because I am not staying as your maid. You are not. I am not staying as your prisoner, no, and I am not staying because you paid for my life. Dominic stepped closer. Then why? Claire held his gaze. Because I know what you are. His face hardened. And I am choosing with my eyes open. Dominic lifted his hand. He waited. Claire stepped into his touch. His palm settled against the place where the bruise had faded. You are still a monster, she whispered. I know. You still confuse protection with control. I know. You are going to learn the difference. And if I forget Claire took his tie in one hand, I will remind you. A dark smile touched his mouth. That sounds like a threat. It is. Claire pulled him closer. Dominic kissed her only after she closed the final distance. Outside waves struck the cliffs beneath Grayhaven. Inside, the woman who had survived by becoming invisible stood beside the most feared man in Boston. Not behind him, not beneath him, beside him. The bruise was gone. The warning remained. No one would ever put their hands on Claire Bennett again. Not because she belonged to Dominic Kane, because anyone who tried would have to answer to both of them.